Has there ever been a moment in your life where you thought, this is it? I've chased my dream as hard as I could. I've done everything that I possibly know how to do, and still nothing has happened. Or maybe you're the person who has tried the dream and you've gotten so close and then it's gotten messed up by somebody, someone, or something. Man, if you're one of these people, this podcast is for you. We talk about, is there a line to which your dreams should end? Is there a place that you get to where you should call it quits? Or should you just keep chasing it as long as you have breath in your lungs? We talk about it all, y'all. We're excited to get to this. And of course, check out my new song at the end of the podcast. We love you guys so much. Here's Nights at the Round Table. And welcome to another episode of Nights at the Round Table. It's your boy Manuel with my boy Be Real, my queen Angela Johnson, and we got our homie.
What's up, everybody?
I gotta come up with a nickname for him.
Johnny
No Good. Hey, you know that cat daddy Johnny No Good. Yeah, he's always up to something. Johnny No Good.
Mostly up to reality TV.
Cool
nachos.
Johnny. Cool boy Johnny No Good. So we invited him, and he brought some vino.
This is a very exclusive wine.
Oh, yeah.
From the third shelf at Gelson's. It is a 2017 Raymond Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
Yeah, Sauvignon.
Sauvignon. According to the label, this is the family's tradition of sharing their passion for wine. So it's full of passion.
Yeah.
130 years of winemaking and raspberry, cherry, and blackberry, which is, I feel, typical for most.
Yeah.
Cabernets.
All right. I'm with it.
But it's, it's well reviewed.
Well, let's give it a little go.
Little
Cheers
sip.
to a good podcast, y'all.
Solid red.
Cheers.
Oh, I don't mind this one.
It's smooth. It's fruit forward.
I don't mind this one.
Smooth and
Very
full.
smooth.
Is it small? My mouth got a little dry at the end. So
What's our price point on this one?
This one was, we're talking Gelson's prices.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
let's
yeah.
roll it back $5 to $20.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's typically like right around like 15, 16.
Perfect.
So,
Awesome price point.
Good
That's
price
right in
point.
So I don't know anything about wine because to me, when he said it's a $20 bottle, I was like, no, cool. That's cheap to me. I'm like, cheap.
That's a
But
good,
apparently
like,
that's a good.
Well, okay, so like 15 to like 25, that's a good, like it's random Tuesday, you had some friends over, let's just open a bottle. And then when you get to like 30, that's more like, what friend is it?
Yeah.
You care about this friend a little bit?
Do I know you well? Do I know your last name
You
for the
know-
most part?
Right, exactly. And then you get like fancy pants.
Okay.
40,
I'm debated
50.
on a white because I'm here for a cougar juice moment when I can. But today I felt like classy. So.
There we go.
Yeah.
brought
Keep
it
it
through.
classy, Johnny No Good. Hey, so today our episode is, this episode came to my head and it was so appealing to me. The idea of at what point do you call it quits on your dream? And the reason so is because I've started my dream over so many times. It's gotten so close so many times and it's done things. Like, I don't want to act like I haven't done things, but I always see so much farther than the situation that I'm in. So I'm like, oh, we never got to where we wanted to go. And when I started talking to other friends, there's a lot of friends in this moment in time going through something. And maybe if you're listening, you're going through it too. And if you're watching, PS, YouTube, smash that like button. Subscribe. Hit the bell. If they were all going through the same point where they were like, man, I really have to weigh out if I'm going to keep continuing along this path. And the crazy thing is because life starts happening. People, and this happened to my brother once, people, they wane on their dream and they allow things to come in. Sometimes it's a boyfriend or girlfriend. Sometimes it's family. And I don't want to say it in a negative way, but family, kids, whatever. All these things that now force your attention to go to them before your dream. Mm-hmm. And somehow your dream ends up in the back and you realize it at some point and you're like, oh shit, did I call it quits? Yeah. Was that my line? Like the family or the whatever. And so it just really made me want to ask the question of, man, is there a line? Is there a point when you should call it quits on your dream? Have you called it quits on your dream? If so, what was that line? I'm still chasing my dream. So obviously I thought I had a line, I thought it was my second failed record deal. No. First one was not failed. Second one was definitely failed, but that was okay because I didn't like being a slave. But
Details.
yeah, anybody that I owe money to, I don't like it. So that obviously was the second time, and I was like done. I was like, all right, Jesus, I'm done. I'm gonna just do real estate, whatever. Then my boy Josh calls me up and says, yo, I'm doing this sync stuff now for TV and film. Just come through. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of done with music. I don't really care about it no more. I just want to like chill and do nothing. And so he's like, come through. We'll have a good time. I need to go to Nashville anyways for some property. So I went and we jumped in the studio. And that day we wrote like 3 songs. And so the dream came alive. Excuse me. So I realized, oh man, I don't, as much as I would like to think I have a line to my dream, it kind of just keeps finding me. And I don't know if it's smart, but I keep diving in. And now I'm all in because now this podcast is a new dream. And now I'm like all in on this podcast. Merch, new equipment, new people. I mean, we're going in. So, but in this table alone, do you know people that have called it quits? In your life, are you in that moment? Go ahead.
I wanted to say something to what you were just saying. Like, so you were going to Nashville because you had some property stuff there. And you've talked on the podcast a lot about like real estate and like delving into that a little bit. And you have definitely developed a passion for real estate, learning, and that long money vision. But do you think aspiring to real estate and learning how to understand it and diving into it was a piece of you kind of giving up on the music dream?
No. Because I realized what my dream really was. All this time, I thought it was music. But with something like music, and any creative knows, there comes this pressure to be good. There's just a pressure to be cool, to be good, to be in the know. With certain vocations, that's the thing. Like you got to be on Instagram. You got to be doing the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that no longer appealed to me. Real estate appealed to me because I was able to be creative. I'm buying houses, I'm remodeling them. And at the same time, it doesn't require me to be cool. I don't have to be posting. I don't have to whatever. And it's long money. It's real wealth. So I started realizing my real dream was freedom. Remember I told you, I was like, babe, I don't ever want us to have to say the word have. Like I have to do this. I always want us to be able to say, I want to do this. And so real estate to me is that thing where you and I, if we keep, smart and we keep building our real estate empire, at some point it's going to be like, oh, well, we don't really have to go out. Like we can. Like you can go out, do comedy. I can go out and do music, but we're literally doing it just for fun.
Okay. So that brings up a little bit of, okay, so what is the dream, right? Because you talked about your dream in like my record deal and this and that. And just for like everybody listening who may be like, well, what is my dream? Or, that kind of conversation. You still have a passion for music. So even though you say like my real dream is freedom, like that is a goal for sure. And that's something that I think everybody at this table would want, is like financial freedom, just all freedom in every aspect. But we can't deny that passion thing inside of us, that dreams when we can't even help it, that you think about. And to me, I feel like that's music for you because you're so good at it, and you hear a song and then all of a sudden like you'll get inspired, and I can see you start to like practice like lyrics, and then you're typing them in your phone. And so I think it's like such a part of you, writing songs and music, but that's, you think it's still separate of
my dream?
The dream being just freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the idea of getting back on stage is like, oh no. Like I would only do it if like something weirdly happened.
There was a toilet just right of the monitor.
If something weirdly happened with one of the songs and it all of a sudden blew up, and then I'm going on tour, but then the tour would be utterly and completely like any other tour, not like any other tour, because I would do whatever the hell I want. Like it would not be, I'm not gonna try to be cool. Don't ask me about production. Don't ask me about nothing. I'm gonna show up, do whatever the hell it is that I think I want, and just feed the people. Because that's really all I care about. Like the passion is really feeding people, inspiring people, which is why I do this podcast. It's why the music thing is just literally fun. I get to hang out with my boys and do something I'm good at. But it's also with TV and film, I'm planting seeds. Any one of these songs could take on a life of their own and start getting placed on TV shows. Like my boy Sam, his damn freaking Wolves, Legends, and Play with Fire. Those 3 songs get placed every week. He just posted again. Oh, I'm in Australia. Thanks for playing in Australia Legends for a freaking TV commercial, a massive TV commercial. He wrote that song like 4 years ago, and it's still the song every week is getting placed. So he is killing it. That is called residual and passive income. So I'm in the music thing to get those 3 or 4 of those songs that set us up, and then I'm like, cool, that's it. That's just like another real estate investment to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I also think that that's a little bit about like indicative of dreaming in and of itself. Like, I think if you look at most of our heroes or most of our in entertainment or sports or whatever, like when people are really killing it, like even on the outside, when it looks like they're in the heyday, they're in their prime, like on the one hand, that could look like them hitting a pinnacle, but really you see, I would even say like a lot of pop stars, like I always look at even like Lady Gaga or something, because I remember first seeing her early work, and I wasn't as much of like really a stan or like a huge fan of that up front, but I always remember thinking to myself, I want to see who she's going to be when she can establish herself in this industry. She doesn't have to answer to labels. She doesn't have to answer to anybody. I want to see the person she becomes, because there's something about freedom and who she is. And I'm like, I'm impressed, but I want to see this. There's like a phase 3 and 4 that we're going to get. And I think we see that with all of our heroes, and a lot of these is like they almost hit their biggest strides after the fact, after they're done like freedom. Really killing it. Yeah, and it is a freedom. I think for some people it's either freedom. I know of some people that are like A-list actors that they're starting a rescue home in like LA for like people who just like actors, entertainers, and people in the industry that need support. And so you see a leveling up of dream, or a leveraging of what they're capable of doing to do something a little bit more significant, or do something a little bit more like behind the scenes. Yeah, that is inherently deeper. And so you see people kind of galvanize the scope of their lives kind of after the like momentum, or what is like commercially like overwhelming.
That's interesting that you saw that about Lady Gaga, because I remember when I first saw her in concert, I went to the New Kids on the Block tour.
I just went to see them at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was everything.
Right?
Chill.
And she opened for them before she was anybody. And I remember thinking, who is this? Get off the stage. Where is Jordan Knight already? Like, so I'm so impressed that you saw her greatness when she first started, because I did not see it. I didn't catch the vision.
I was in a club in LA, and it was this small stage, maybe the size of this table. And she had like 4 dancers. They couldn't even fit on stage, so they danced around the stage. And it was packed. It was this small thing. And I was like, who the hell is this chick who thinks she's in a stadium? Because she was going hard, and the dancers were killing it. And then for a moment, like my hate turned to like, yes, you are legitimately dope. You can sing, and even though your dancers are dancing in this small whatever, they're dope, and you are dope. And it was this small ass club, and I didn't know it was her. They were just like,
and now you look at like even with the movie and with Shallow and with all these, you're seeing her, what she's offering to fans and to like culture at large is a lot deeper. And I even just watched like, I don't know how I got on the like wormhole on YouTube, but I watched some like makeup tutorial that she was like in just to hear her talk. And she's coming out with she's coming out with a makeup line, and her vision behind a makeup line is to create home for anybody who uses it. That was what she's like, to be a place that's safe, that in using that brand, that the brand represents home and like safety and personal security and like fullness. And I just think these are those things that I think even in all the like sexiness and epic of like sometimes on the come up, sometimes when you eclipse maybe your pinnacle, quote unquote, you're actually able to do more after that. And I think that's indicative of dreaming in a lot of ways.
I think that's so huge, because what happens is the dream evolves. And I think a lot of times growing up, we have mostly this dream that's been fed to us. You know, whatever background you grow up in. For me, obviously, people who are hearing this, you know, I grew up in the church. So there was this kind of script or this dream that I was fed of like, hey, this is the pinnacle of ministry. Like if you get here, if you get on the conference circuit and you're speaking here and you're taking pictures with, you've made it. And then along the way, like as you're starting to discover who you are, what you actually like, because, you know, like you don't even really know yourself really.
Right.
And the more that you get to know yourself, you start to decide whether like, is this really my dream? Or is this what I think I should want? Which is what some people discover on the journey. They're like, I actually, once I got there and tasted of the so-called pinnacle, I realized I didn't even want it.
Yeah.
And then that's where that dream either dies or it evolves into something better. And I always feel like too, for me, so basketball was one of my dreams. My dream was to play professional basketball. I did for 2 seasons or like a season and a half. And it was interesting because I remember 2015, I'm in China, like 2 hours north of Shanghai, and I am depressed as hell. At one point, suicidal. This was just a day. Like, it was just a really dark day for me. And I'm thinking, man, I am living out my dream, and I hate my life right now. Wow. I'm living on the other side, disconnected from everybody. I can't, like, and I'm thinking about all those years that I had sacrificed myself to the game. And I'm thinking of all those, just the early mornings, the late nights, the skipping out on family meetings and all this sorts of stuff to commit to the dream. And once I had the dream, I realized I still don't feel fulfilled. And it was interesting because I remember at that point making a decision for myself. I'm thinking, okay, if this is all that it is, I'm going to stop here. Because this isn't making my heart happy anymore.
Yeah.
At that point, I had tasted my dream and I realized I was done. And so I remember I come home and I'm thinking, I might play again someday, but I don't really know. And literally 2 months after I come home, that's when I fall in love with Maddie. And I remember the feeling of that, meeting her and connecting with her. I realized, oh my God, this is the dream. Like, I thought it would be crowds chanting my name. I thought it'd be me hitting a game-winning bucket against some team deep in the fourth. And then I realized, oh my God, no, it was actually this other human being who I connected with on a very deep level who sees me and loves me.
Yeah.
Like this connection here weighs so much more than what I thought I wanted my entire life.
That's crazy.
You know?
Is there any in this table, if you can say it, is there any portion of a dream that you have either given up on currently, never went for, or are currently striving for right now?
Sure. I've been doing a lot of contemplating lately about my dream as I'm in this season of rest for myself. Jackie and I went to a conference in Nashville. It was Sarah Jakes Women Evolved, Sarah Jakes Roberts, Women Evolved. Jackie, do you remember the quote the woman that spoke said something about living in an expired dream? Was that what it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she just said that quote, like, are you living in an expired dream? And I started to like take inventory of my life and like where my passion is and what I like think about at night. And from when I was just moved to LA and so passionate to who I am now, and trying to figure out, do I not have the same passion and vision for this dream of acting because it's an expired dream and I'm over it? Or am I hurt from all the rejection? And trying to like decipher like which one is it? Am I just hurt and jaded, so I'm protecting myself by saying like, I don't really care about that anymore? I mean, I kind of, if I booked a part, great, you know. Is that me being hurt and trying to protect myself? Or has my dream moved on? Like, I don't know. And I'm trying to like figure that out. And I, oddly enough, went today to do my artist date. I'm reading this book right now called The Artist's Way, Spiritual Path Back to Your Creativity, because I've definitely felt that I've been creating for the past few years. In short, I've been creating the past few years out of survival mode, out of necessity, not because I'm a creative person and it's just overflowing out of me because I'm so in touch with my creator and I'm so in touch with my creativity that it just flows out of me. I'm not in that place. I'm in the, what's everybody doing? I got to do it too. YouTube channel, I got to do YouTube channel. Funny videos, I got to do funny videos. Do a funny tweet, I got to do a funny tweet. Like take a poll, everybody's doing polls, whatever, like interact, reply to comments, whatever. And it's like this survival mode, right? So I was like, okay, I need to get back in touch with my creativity. And one of the things it talks about in the book is to take yourself on an artist date, meaning go for like an hour and go to a record store, go to a secondhand store, go to a museum, go for a drive, go people watch at a coffee shop, whatever kind of fuels your creativity. Go do that for yourself. For me, I was sharing with you before, like looking at the view of the city, like something about the view of the city. I would drive up to the mountaintop. I would look at the city. I would pray, and I would thank God for my dreams and my visions. And I would park in front of the studio lots, and I could see the studio lots, and I would pray in front of these studio lots and be like, you know, my show, or you know, I'm going to be filming here, and like whatever, and like calling it in, you know. And so I went to do my drive today, and I'm like, I'm going to go up to the mountaintop and just like overlook the city. And I just kept driving. And the next thing you know, I drove all the way across Mulholland, and I went all the way to the main lookout point where you can see the Hollywood sign, Griffith Observatory, downtown LA, and over Hollywood. And on a clear day, you could see the ocean. So I stood there and I parked there, and I'm just kind of like looking out and seeing if anything sparks within me that used to when I was like young dreamer girl, and I would look at the city, I'd be like, oh, this city's mine. Like it would just be so, I could feel my insides like just stirring and be like, I'm so ready for it. No, none of those feelings happened today. And I was like, let me change my song in my headphones. Let me put on a different song. See if that stirs me up a little bit. No, not this one. Okay, let me put on a gospel song. Maybe a gospel song will do it. No, didn't do it either. So I was like, I wonder what it is. And then the things that were striking me was like just imagining human life and human connection. Like there's somebody in this city right here that's going through something. There's right behind those downtown buildings, that's Skid Row, and there's some hurting people there. And that's kind of where my heart and mind went, was to people. So I don't know what that means yet, but I am grappling right now with, am I living in an expired dream, or am I hurt and avoiding it? Like, what is that? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I think this is a telltale sign of whether or not you're living in an expired dream. If you have to talk yourself out of it or into it, I think it's expired. Because people that have a real dream, it's like you can't really help it. Just do it. Whether you're getting paid or not, it's just like, I have to do this because it's coming out of me. Whatever that thing is, I just have to do it. And that's what I noticed in Nashville. Because if I went into that studio and it just would have been another beat, and I just been like, I just want to get out of here, you know? I would have left, and I would have been fine with that. But I wrote 3 songs in one day. And there has not been a studio session where I haven't written a song. Like, I was going there, like the last dude that came through in the house, I wrote 2 songs in 3 hours. So it just comes out. It's just natural. It's easy. I don't have to talk myself into it, nor do I have to talk myself out of it. It's just there, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself like trying to convince yourself, oh, it's dead, to avoid the pain, I don't know if it's dead. I think one day you'll just wake up and it'll just be like surprisingly okay that it's not in your life anymore. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I think there are dreams that could die inside of us, but then come back alive. And sometimes I think the proof of whether that was your dream or not is if it died, has it been resurrected? And again, that process, you can't really put a timestamp on that. Yeah. You can't say, oh, in 5 years, if your dream is resurrected, you know. Yeah. But I think too, man, there's just some dreams that you can't shake. Like, and that's how you know it's real. You know, like that thing is embedded in your DNA. Like, it's that sweet spot of like, I was born to do this. And in our Christianese will say, oh, I was called to do this, you know? Because there's even moments in my life where I know I'm called to preach. Like I'm just gifted. Like that's what I do. Like when I took speech class in college, like everyone else was like stressing about their presentations and stuff. And I'd come in like 2 minutes before, like, all right, what are we talking about? And just bullshit my way and get a great grade in that class.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm gifted. And during my season of feeling really jaded and hurt by the church, I remember thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna preach again. And I'm okay with it because I'm just kind of I'm a little bit on my high horse, and I'm like, man, that's all bullshit, you know? And I just remember there was this moment where I forgot, I was on a drive somewhere, and I just remember like my heart like calling out to myself. And it's weird because it's only happened a few times in my life. Like where you literally feel like my soul is speaking to me right now. Like you're disconnected from your soul for a moment so it can like really get your attention. And I just remember feeling like, man, no matter how far I would try and run away from not preaching, I wouldn't be able to run away. Yeah. Like that's just like, that's a dream of mine, and it'll always be a dream of mine. And so that's one of those dreams that I feel like for me has been resurrected so many different times. And even when even moments where I've lost passion and lost vision, because to me, those are two things that I felt like me playing professional basketball is done. Because it's no longer a passion to play at that level for me. And I no longer have the vision for my life to see myself in that position doing that. And so after the passion and the vision, it's like, man, this is just work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. What about you, Johnny? No good?
I mean, I've been in like a really interesting, like the last decade of my life has been a back and forth, a cross weaving of different dreams kind of all coming together. I know I didn't grow up in the church. I was Catholic when I was younger, but for the most part, I didn't grow up in the church. But I also didn't grow up with parents that had like strong ideologies that they were trying to convince me of, whether it was political, whether it was any kind of religion. So for me, everything has always been like trial and error, but very organic. And I remember when I started acting, like my dream is to be a performer and to be in the entertainment industry. But I remember when I first saw, I started doing theater, and especially when I first saw the show Rent. And I know a lot of people that show is like really transformative for them. And if you're not familiar, it's like mid to late 90s. It's a coming of age musical based on Puccini's La Boheme, and reframed for like this mid 90s kind of like world of like class structure and gentrification and like the AIDS epidemic and all. And just, I remember thinking when I saw that show, the experience of, I already loved the perform, but then to see a creative thing that said, you know, here are walks of life that I may never live. And here's something that I'm looking around in high school at all these kids, different kids, all finding a little something of themselves in it. And I just realized there's something visceral and guttural about the creative, that you can do something and it can change people because it helps them understand the world a little bit better. And I was just kind of committed to that reality. I was like, if anybody's life could be spent doing that, I want my life to be spent doing that. But then I started going to church, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the hard part about church,
where dreams die. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, the hard thing about church is you don't realize that there is I didn't realize when I started going to church that the church has a culture. And the church world and the industry of church, the economics of church has a culture that mandates something and demands something. And that has been, you know, even I've been in the church for like 15 years now. And even to today, I still suffer like moments of like sadness and loss. And I try and stay like hopelessly optimistic and naive. But there's moments where like it steals something from you in its expectation. That is really difficult. And I remember I was at like a summer camp, and I had like, I'm applying to all my universities as a theater major to do entertainment. Or just to perform. And I feel this like moment, this deep encounter of the Lord to like be a pastor. Wow. And to go to ministry. And part of that was connected to seeing injustice happen to other people and being like, okay, if there's one more of me in the church, there'll be one less of that. And I remember even like at a youth group, at a summer camp, you know, we were at a church, or at my high school, the OC was filmed at my high school. It was a little beach town. You go, you know, you take a beach culture, OC informed group of kids to a summer camp. And a lot of pastors have a lot of things to say to girls that they shouldn't be saying to girls. You know, I remember this one guy, he came up to a girl in our group and was like, girl, you better change. I can see everything you got going on down there. And I was so mad at like the gall of this youth pastor that we didn't know. And this girl was crying for hours because of this statement. So that kind of changed something in me to be like, okay, I'm going to do worship because I'm like, I can create. And like, you know, but it was like, I went and got a theology degree to do it because at the core, I was like, I can create space and it can be safe. And in the most deep encounter spaces, like I will create a safe space to make sure that like, if I'm leading worship, there will be no offense and there will be no abuse and so I ran after that and then found a church as I graduated high school. So I'm graduating college to find a church that like reflects this like justice, entertainment focused thing inside of me. But I had given up and I had mourned the like performance side of things. And even in college, the Lord was like, you know, I had this encounter in a class where it's like, you're not called to the church. Your ministry is who you are, but it's not what you're called to do. Wow. But then you find a church that like reflects this internal culture. And I think in my fear of going after what was like really big and crazy about entertainment, I was willing to sacrifice that to build this kind of church community that I was a part of. And what happens though is I wasn't in my lane and I wasn't being able to exist in the space that I felt. Because I think when I came to know the Lord, and like my dream got activated in spirit kind of thing, it felt like purpose in a different way. Because I think I always believed in storytelling and in the creative spaces as one of the only places where you can like really encourage. You can do something deep in people through creative experiences. So fast forward like 10 years of being a part of this church, you know, I suffered, and I'm not going to say suffer. I don't think it's a fair word, but I had a lot of struggle in the worship space, you know, living out of an internal purpose that people weren't necessarily seeing or necessarily wanting or inviting more of. And the Lord, you know, there was a moment where the Lord given me an exit plan and told me to like step back. But I think I was so tied to how I was succeeding in the church space that I was afraid to abandon
So you're like, I'm not going to be a pastor. I'm not going to be on the worship team. Coffee shop.
Yeah,
Let's go.
We're out, you know. And you know, like church spaces, colleges, high schools, like these are intentional communities that you can learn how the culture works and you can kind of thrive. Like you can be really quote unquote successful.
Learn the language.
Yeah, and this is created, like we're at a church. Nobody has to go to a church, right? This is an intentional, you offer something to a community, you commit to a community, you're invested because of something that you are together. But it's intentional. It's something you do. Nobody's forcing me to go, you know? And so it's been an interesting journey because in the process, like as I was in college and like kind of dreaming about worship, like these are the creatives I will care for, a culture of creativity. And that's how my pastoral and artistic gifts collide.
You know, I feel like I did a few jobs that I was really kind of entertaining or doing what my calling was without doing it, you know? And even like in church, I remember joining the welcome team, right? Praise them, standing at the front door.
Oh, yeah.
And I could still hear the worship music. And then I was just dancing at the front and people would walk up and I'd be like, hey, what? Like I was like the best welcome person ever. But it was a sense of I'm on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm performing, let's go. And from my very first job that I ever had before I knew I was going to be in the entertainment industry or let alone a stand-up comedian, I worked for a amusement park. It was called Paramount's Great America.
Yes.
And I worked in the games. Well, I worked a bunch of places in the park, but I thrived in the games, right? In the games section. And I worked this one game where we have to guess your weight and then you jump on a big scale, right? Or I guess the month you were born in, right? There's no trick to it. There's no answer. You're just guessing. Like that's all. And you just have to have personality. I was doing stand-up comedy before I knew that's what I was doing because I had a microphone and I would talk to people as they would walk by and I would say funny things to them as they would walk by to get them to come and play my game. And then even while they were playing my game, like I'm being funny with them. And that's how I got the people to come and play because I was doing stand-up comedy without realizing that's what I was doing, but I was performing.
Exactly.
And
And I think that's what happened with me is I was doing the same thing where you're in the church, you're like, I'm committed to this space. It feels really successful. Like I'm performing for those people, but ultimately I wasn't in my lane. And I convinced myself that was my lane. I convinced myself that's where I'm supposed to thrive. And then to not get, you know, you're not getting the affirmation you're looking for. Suddenly you're turning that into rejection. Suddenly you're coupling with that as, you're tying that to a lack of success or a lack of ability, and allowing it to kind of fracture some of your confidence. So I'm in this interesting place right now of, I had already kind of mourned the entertainment space or my performance side. That's part of me that wants to like be that proxy for people to experience life. And now I'm doing it again in terms of like some elements of like the church culture and the church identity that I had really like connected myself to.
So you're saying you still feel like, is the performance space, or that is that the dream that you're,
and like Brandon was saying, that's the thing that like I could never get away from. And that's the thing, if I was going to say like, this is what I'd like ruin my life for.
Wow.
That was always it. And I think it's the thing I have. And then, after a while in inactivity or like trying to assign yourself other things, people start to kind of lose faith in your dream for you. You start to realize like, well, you're not doing it. And you're like, I'm just scared. But you don't realize you're scared.
That's what I was saying. Like where people accidentally take things on in their life that make the dream even harder. And it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. So like it happened with my brother. He wanted to be a singer. But then he gets into this relationship, gets married, has a kid, and all of a sudden he has to provide for the kid. And then he has to take care of this marriage. But then the dream is back here because he has to go get a job. And now he's working 9 to 9, and then another kid comes, and then it's another family, and all of a sudden the dream looks so far away, because in order to now make that dream happen, you're going to have to sacrifice time from your family. Yeah. And that just, in that point in time, it's not possible. Like you can't, you could if you didn't give a damn about your family, but he loves his kids, so he couldn't do it. So now the dream is deferred, and it becomes so far out of reach because your kids need you more and more and more. So I know that there's people listening that probably had a dream, but now their circumstances have put them in a corner to where it's like, I can no longer see the dream. I only see my present day circumstance. And then that triggers the feeling of, I don't know if it's hopelessness or just like, damn, I wasted my life. And now I have a substandard version of my life. And not to like, I don't want to sound like it's crapping on kids or family, because I don't think that is. I think you can lose your dream and find complete satisfaction in your kids. But there's a part of you that died, or that is dying, or that is desiring to be resurrected.
My mom is a perfect example of that. And I think even the other day we were talking about it. She might have been sharing it with you, Ange, how she's always been passionate about health stuff, right? So like she's like living her dream now. But, my dad's dream and what he felt called to was obviously a ministry platform, itinerant, travels around, speaks. And again, my dad was born to do that. Like you see him in his element and you're just like, this is your sweet spot, man. Mm-hmm. And so when my mom got married pretty young, they had me almost immediately. So my mom has this dream of like, hey, I want to pursue health stuff. But because of my dad, of who he is, my mom's dream had to be on the back burner. So for years, there was this thing inside of her that was brewing of like, man, I'm living so below what I know I can. And again, this is no reflection of my dad. It wasn't that my dad didn't love her. It wasn't that she hated my sister. That wasn't it. But the dream had to be on the back burner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally it got to a point where obviously their marriage gets dismantled, and she finally feels like, you know what? I need to go out on my dream. So that dream was literally like on the back burner for like 20 plus years.
Wow.
Damn.
So as soon as they got divorced, my mom moves and pursues her education in it.
Come on, Mom.
And so now my mom is like living her dream. And it's so amazing because here my mom is in her, actually that'd be mean to quote her age. Anyways, but she is now in the sweet spot of her living her dream. And it's crazy. Like, I feel like for her and the joy that she has and the light that she has, it's almost like the years have been reversed for her. It's like she's younger now than she was 10 years ago.
Come on,
because
Mom.
now she's like actually going out on that dream.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it'd been on the back burner for so long, it was like when she hit rock bottom, that was the only thing that she knew of like could get her out.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then would you guys, say there's a proverbial friend and they're coming to you asking you, hey, this is my situation. I have a dream. What should I do? Is there ever a time that you would advise someone to let it go? Like, is there ever special circumstances or something that's happening that you're just like, you got to let this go. And I asked because I come across being in music. I have a lot of people that send me their music and I listen to a lot of music. And there's occasionally the time where I'm like, I cannot find talent within this offering. But I reserve the judgment to say you should probably not do this. Because
I need to turn this off before the stank residue gets on all my music in this computer system.
I don't even think that way because I don't think my music is any better than theirs. I just think, look what is succeeding now. And I look at it and I'm like, that is not awesome, but it's winning. So I have to take a back seat and be like, I don't care if I think that's good or not. It's doing way more than my music is. So respect their process, respect their talent. So I respect everyone's talent. But it makes me question, would I really tell this person, being such a dreamer that I am, would I really tell them, hey man, you should probably go another route?
I would never in my wildest dreams tell somebody to give up their dream ever.
And there's never a moment to which you feel like they should, though.
Oh, I definitely have felt that before, but I would never say that. I would never put myself in authority to try to crush somebody's dream. I would offer constructive criticism.
But what's the line?
The line of criticism? Or?
No. What is the line to which you feel like this person should stop? Like, what was the line?
Well, if they're completely awful at what they're attempting to do, I'd be like,
so like no ray of no, you're not even close to the mark. It's not even opinion on this, like taste. This is like, yo.
Would there be other factors in that? So say someone is like just boo-boo garbage, like, but they're not willing to sacrifice to get to that better place. Like, if it's just kind of like,
I was working with a coach in the last year because I was like, I'm a little stuck. And I would say, as somebody who maybe for a few minutes was like, had a few people that were like, are you sure? You know, like, to be fully real, I think there's some people that are like, I want to support you. I don't know if it's prudent. You know what I mean? So, but I working with a coach, you know, even having somebody who's like, well, you're paying me to be completely invested in this dream, if it is. And in that process, it's like that assessment. It's like, dude, are you willing to allow me to like tell you right off the bat that you're wrong? Or are you willing to say that, like, if this is everything, if I watch you do it, are you willing for me to tell you, like, this is what wasn't good, or this didn't make sense? Or, and I think for anybody in whatever the sphere is, you know, are you willing to be heard and have somebody like do a dramatic assessment about what you're doing? And like, does that galvanize you? Does that inspire you to like turn around and do better and like fight harder? And just, I think a lot of times with telling if someone's your dream, it's like you have to sometimes assess whether or not it's actually their dream. It's like,
well, that's what I was gonna say. If you are coming to me and I can see through your reasoning for wanting, because I get this every day. How do I become a singer for the Lord? Because I know that I can, and this is not me being facetious or like dissing people that feel like they're called to sing, but it's the same script. I care about people. I know that I'm called to be a singer for the Lord and influence the generation and be holy and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, well, what are you doing right now for it? And they're like, nothing right now. I just know that I'm called. And I'm like, so wait a minute. So you're telling me you're called to do this massive thing, to reach the world and influence a generation. And you ain't recorded one demo. You haven't saved up money for one song. You haven't done anything. That's when I'm like, I don't know if this is your dream. Yeah. I really don't, because if it was your dream, you would sacrifice for it. But what you're expecting is a shortcut, because they want me to get them to a place. Right. Hey, do you know anyone that can I get my music to whatever? I'm like, well, what music? You don't even have a following on. You haven't put anything out to garner one fan. So you're expecting to just circumvent. And this was a problem that I always had when I was, you know, I would always I would preach when I was in the industry, in the Christian industry, and they would ask me about dreams. And it was my main thing that I would preach about. And I would get really upset when people would lean on Jesus to cover their imperfections. not their imperfections and character and whatever, because we're all leaning on, we all like, damn it, Jesus, save us. I'm talking about you're not going to vocal practice. You're not practicing your guitar. You're not anything. You're getting up on stage because the church is going to allow you to get on stage because for whatever reason, it is holy and okay to let somebody who is not good to stand on stage and sing not well. That's just something that we're okay with because it's the talent is unto the Lord. But I always used to say, if you suck, like, stay off the stage. Like, don't, because what you are doing is showing the Lord that it's not important to you. You're not doing anything to get better at your craft, and yet you want the Lord to somehow anoint the bad singing. And it bothered me because I'm almost like, are you really wanting this thing? Like, you want this shortcut, you want this Band-Aid, this thing, and you just don't want to put in the work. I don't understand how that's unto the Lord. I just don't get it. To me, I was running on a treadmill before I even knew a label, knew who I was. I was running on a treadmill. I got a credit card that had a max limit of 10 grand. I never encouraged this, but it was a no interest credit card, Discover. I bought my whole studio with it. And I stayed in a freaking room a whole summer and learned how to mix, learn how to record, learn how to do everything myself. I went through 200 CDs learning how to mix, 200 CDs, learning how to record myself, push and record, running to the closet, closing the door, trying not to breathe, and then doing my take, and then running back to stop it, you know? Before that, I was doing it with tapes, cassettes. In order for me to do a double on a cassette, I would have to record the beat on one side to this blank disc with my first round vocals. So the beat's coming to this little cassette and my vocal. Then I take that cassette, move it to this one, play that, and then add second vocals on top of it.
Wow.
It took me a year to do one album because if you mess up with tapes, you have to start all the way over at the beginning.
Oh, no.
I will not lie. Every single day I was cussing so much. I was like, what the fuck? Why can't I get this, Jesus? And it was all for God. I was doing it for God. I was cussing.
For the Lord.
I was cussing because I would get all the way to the end of a song and make a mistake and I would have to start over.
Amen.
But I did that. Look, for 12 years before I got signed.
God.
For 12 years. So when I look at people telling me that their dream isn't happening fast enough, I can't take a lot of people serious. Or when I look at people and they say, you know I'm called to reach the nations, but they haven't done 1 ounce of work to do it. I just don't believe them.
And I think sometimes, at least for me, I know it's been interesting in the church where there's a lot of breakthrough conversation. There's a lot of like a hyper sensationalized spiritualization over dreams that like oftentimes like who I am and who God is inside of me is the same irrelevant of like my bank account, irrelevant of what I'm doing. So like how God is working is not contingent upon me being successful in my dream. And honestly, when we look at, essentially even the cross, like I'm not guaranteed anything in my life beyond the like hope of the cross.
Yep.
And that's kind of where it begins and ends. So the rest of it, and especially with dreams, is rests in very pragmatic and systematic ways. So
I agree.
It comes with work, and it comes with like a lot of people too. They're looking for their dreaming requires like succeeding within an industry, which is an economic process, which is its own like it's not the rules of like biblical like dreaming language at a conference.
It's really not.
Or
yeah.
a prayer room. It's like
Right.
the context of which that you are finding your quote unquote success is like, it's within an industry and it's within a business and it's within a practical gathering of skills and gaining strength and momentum. And so even telling people, it's like, okay, great. But let's like that being said, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And I think that's the tough pill I had to swallow. I had a friend one time who was like, I don't want to talk about your dream anymore. They're like, like you're not getting cast in the auditions you don't go to. And like, I'm done talking about you dreaming. So like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And like enough people have told you. So call me when you're doing something.
Wow.
But at the same time, it's like taking those moments, or even, I'm not going to say I may be open for like an epic comedian one time, but I learned a million, it might have been Angela, but I learned a million things in 10 minutes on stage that like there was a naivete and an experience, but it's changed everything I did. Just in the moment, like telling God, like teach me something in the middle of this. And like throughout the set and even afterwards, like just feeling like, okay, I can observe in like practical ways, like little ways to edit this, little choices that I can make, and it fundamentally changes your skill set in just a moment, you know. But that's from putting yourself out there. And so, I think with not necessarily killing a dream, but it's almost like enough people telling you, it's like it doesn't sound like you want this.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't sound like I'm gonna actually call like bullshit a little bit.
I
Like,
do it all the
don't think-
time.
Yeah. Hey,
I call bullshit all the time.
One of my best friends actually was down here, and within 5 minutes of meeting Manny, just imagine if you're listening right now and you're sitting down with Manny and you're saying, Manny, I want to be a music producer. And Manny just looking at you and he's like,
cute. That's cute.
That's cute. And a couple minutes later saying, you know what your problem is? You bullshit yourself. This is literally the first time meeting my friend. But Manny reads people so well.
Yeah.
So he got it immediately because this is the same friend who, again, hasn't done anything towards going to that dream and is now at the point of like, I don't really know if I want to do it, you know? But I think, again, I don't know full intention. I know just what's been disclosed to me. So maybe some of that is just like, I'm scared to fail. I'm scared to take the risk. So I'm going to act like it's no longer my dream. But again, I'm all like, you gotta like work toward the dream. I was a junior in high school, and a prophetess.
Ooh, what the?
Yes, Lord.
Whoa.
Shooty dooby
The
doo.
Lord has said
Shonda, hey.
She is speaking at a service. I never met this lady in my life before. I walk into the room. She stops me and says, hey, you're going to receive a Division I scholarship to play college basketball. She said, the Lord is going to make you a household name. You will sign a contract to play professional basketball someday, and you haven't met your wife yet. And then goes back into a conversation with somebody.
How old are you?
I'm a junior in high school. And so I'm thinking, oh man, this is dope, you know, like I'm gonna play college basketball.
a done deal, basically.
I'm gonna play pro basketball.
Am I famous already?
My
Yeah.
honey is on her way.
Yeah, right. It's all coming.
Money,
like
honey.
it is all coming. And the crazy thing was, I think there's some people who'd have been like, cool, like Jesus is now taking the wheel. Like my work here is done. God is just going to open the doors for me. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically that summer, I like went into like berserk mode where I was like, yo, I got to work. Like I am going to. So it was like, I think I was actually showing God that I was ready for him to open the door for me. Like, I think us in working and like really going after the dream, we're really proving to God if we're going to steward that thing well.
100%.
Like, if he can actually trust us with it.
I would always tell people
can I
this.
ask you, can I ask you a question about that word that you got, the division? Did you get any of those things?
Oh, I
Yeah,
did.
babe.
I
He
did.
went to Cal.
So I
But
but
went
I
to
didn't know
Cal.
about the scholarship. That's right.
So yeah, I received a full ride scholarship. I had, by the time I was a senior, I had over 30 Division I colleges across the country
Wow.
offer me full ride scholarships.
It's the same.
Wow.
I could have went to any Ivy League school I wanted to.
Wow.
There was a ton of different places all over the country, different leagues. And it was true. I hadn't met Maddie yet. That wouldn't come for years later. There was first girl I ever fell in love with. I was thinking she was the one. And then the prophetess, she prophesied over me and I was like, oh shit, she's not the one. You know, this sucks.
It's okay.
And then, and it was crazy too, because I really held on to that word actually, because my junior year of college, I suffered a major concussion and I had another one my senior year. And so our trainer was like, look, man, I'd be careful if I were you. If you get another major concussion, you're going to have permanent brain damage.
Eesh.
Like your brain is jacked up. And at the same time too, I had nowhere near the type of season I thought I would have my senior season. So I'm thinking, man, I'm not going to get any chance to go play. Like, there goes that dream, God. And it was funny because I felt like I brought receipts up to the Lord. Like I was
Come
like,
on.
look at these hours that I logged in, Jesus. It's like, I worked this dream. It's no longer on me, it's on you. Like,
Right.
I did my part.
Right.
Are you going to do your part? And he did do his part. And so it was so cool because I remember the contract getting faxed to us. And I am at a coffee shop in my hometown and I'm signing my pro contract. And I got flashback back to that moment that I had with Kathy Lechner, junior year of my high school. But then also I'm just remembering all of the years that I kept working towards that dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always tell people this, and if you're listening, this is a motto that will literally serve you for the rest of your life. I always tell people, when it comes to dreams, when it comes to you figuring out if you are in your dream or if you're going after the right dream. One, you have to be honest with yourself and you can't bullshit yourself. You can tell me all day long that you want to do it for the Lord, but give me 10 minutes in the conversation and I will know that you're in it for yourself. Like I can spot it. So like stop playing yourself and just admit if you're trying to sing because you would like to be famous or you would like to be known or seen or you have some kind of thing where you just want to be appreciated, just admit it. Admit it and it will go a lot easier. If it's a legit dream, this is the advice I will give you. I always tell people, you do the possible and God will do the impossible. So whatever falls under the realm of possible. So if it's singing, it's vocal lessons, it's practicing writing songs every day, trying everything that what's in your power. If for me, it was rapping, I didn't have nobody to make beats. So you know what I did? I went online and I got beats. This was big in the mixtape days. So I would get CDs and volumes of mixtapes and I would rap over, mainstream beats, mainstream artist beats. And I would do Christian shows with mainstream beats. I remember getting called out by a Christian rapper once.
What was your favorite one that you went through?
Oh man, I did this one Biggie Smalls beat. It was real funny.
That should be the song for this podcast.
Yeah, no, it was funny. But I remember getting called out. This was the beginning of my dream. I got called out by this famous rapper who's still around today. He was big back then. And after the show, we got in a big circle and we started talking theology and music. And he said, without talking to me, he was talking around me. He was like, yeah, and these rappers, coming up now, rapping over secular beats, what I'm saying? That's not godly. That's not whatever. And we just did a show together where I was rapping over quote unquote seculer beats. So
witchcraft,
he literally came at me like
enough.
that. And I was like, I was like, I wasn't phased because back then I'm the same as I am now.
Did your 8 rise up?
Yeah, I got so much confidence in myself. I'm like, nigga, you don't know me, man. Like, you don't know what I do, and I'm doing it for God, and I know God isn't seeing. God isn't up there like, yo, Manny, why you rapping over secular beats? It was just this super, super Christian guy. And then, years later, he takes a fall, whatever. That's neither here nor there. But I tell people, if you can do the possible, that's what I did. I did everything under my possible. I did get a credit card. I worked 3 jobs to pay off that credit card. I put out music, didn't even know how. This was pre any kind of social media. So this is me hustling out my backpack. Not only did I do that, but I stayed in super shape. I was like, well, if Justin Timberlake and Usher is hella sexy, I gotta be sexy. You know what I'm saying? Like I did all the things. And my one thing was like, Lord, when you open the door, and you will open the door because I feel this is what I'm called to do, I do not want the person on the other side of the door to look at me and say, you're not ready. Because if they do, that's going to be because it was something that I could have prevented. And sure enough, when the door opened, not only did I have a slew of catalog, my label couldn't even listen to all the songs that I had. From the beginning of my creative relationship with Warner Brothers and Word Records, they only saw me as a peer, never as a signed artist. Wow. It was always, Manny, what do you want to do? And even my boy Josh, he's like, yo, when you're done, if you want a job here, whatever. So much so that any artist that I brought to them, they would consider signing. I did. I got Francesca signed. They found Darren McClain because of me. They would have signed NF if they were smart, but he didn't go with them. They wasn't
smart.
They didn't give him a good enough deal. But he ended up where he needed to be. And they literally saw me as a peer. But it's because of the amount of work that I did prior. To this day, I have nothing. They respect me like that. Not like, let's corral this artist and get him, to do what he needs to do. But I took myself so serious because to me, I needed to see who I needed to see the future version of me. And I heard a story that Vin Diesel did this. I don't know if it's true, but that he would walk around and tell people he's famous. They just didn't know it yet. That's how he would walk around. He's like, I'm famous. You don't know it yet, but I'm famous. And he was not famous. But this is the attitude that he walked in. Like, one day I will be. So I'm going to act right now how I'm going to be in the future. And that was me. I'm going to act just like this. I'm going to take myself serious. Everything I did. So my first record, I got the dude who mastered Dre's Chronic album to master my album. You know, I paid like $500 a track to mix it. I spent like $8,000 on my first record, which is a lot back then for somebody who didn't have zero way to promote it. Because MySpace just came out. So it was me hustling.
And it was really more about like teardrops falling. And
it was,
like that
it was
about, like,
very much that. And I'm hustling.
It's more about your top 8. But it's fine.
In my top 8. And I hustled it. I made my money back, and I made 7 records, over 200 songs before I got signed.
My goodness.
But it took 12 years. 12 years from starting music to when I finally get signed. And then another 3 after getting signed to even make any money. So that's 15 years of no money making, blood, sweat, and tears of me just spending money to make the dream happen. So when you consider yourself and dreaming...
Dang, that makes me feel like I am not following... I don't have no dreams. I don't got no dreams. I don't work at my dreams.
But that's also why me and you have such a staunch like difference in like whenever you tell me your stuff. And sometimes I've gotten better at this because I always used to treat Ange like myself, and I can't do that. You know, like I have an incessant appetite of work, and when I believe in something, I go in and I'm all in, and I go hard. And not everybody's like that. It doesn't mean that they don't take it serious. It's just different people have different strengths. But if you are that person going after that dream or deciphering whether or not your dream is a legit dream, you got to test your heart. You got to know whether or not. And you got to be honest with yourself, because somebody will see through the bullshit. It will happen. I promise you. Or you'll end up in a place that you do not have the grace to sustain. You may make it, but you're going to freaking crash.
When I was working with my coach, one of the things that he said that kind of blew my mind. And, you know, on the one hand, I think it's really easy when you're in the go to like misappropriate your success and misappropriate what like gives you that sense of success. And I think there's this thing when you're close to what you want to do where you hold onto it tightly the second you start to feel a little bit of like affirmation and go. But one of the things I loved about my coach is he said there's commitments and agreements. And I think this isn't like a new idea, but I think, and it's also stuff that I think is said in different ways, but it's like, what did you commit to and what did you agree to? So like in the different spaces I've been a part of, it's like we didn't commit to anything together. And I didn't get an agreement from somebody for growth or development or pushing forward or commitment to me. And so to hold resentment or frustration towards it when there wasn't any commitment there, that's just you misread the contract kind of thing. At the same time, it goes to even the dream. It's like you have to be self-aware. Like, what are you willing to die for? What are you willing to kind of like, I kind of told myself a long time ago, I'm willing to waste some of the scope of my life on the development and the pursuit of this thing, whatever it looks like to other people. But at the same time, it's like commitments and agreements. If God told me, or if I feel purpose to it, or if I feel like it's deep inside of me because of him, there's like an element of like, okay, there's an agreement. If you work for this, you can have it. But have I committed to doing everything I need to do to show that there's like weight behind that? And so I think of that, you know, I didn't owe, it took me a while to learn, maybe I didn't owe some of these other spaces, the commitment and the energy that I gave it. But at the same time, I look at this dream and I look at what I'm most passionate about. And it's just, what am I actually committed to? And you have to have real conversations with yourself about the scope of what you're willing to do.
And it's hard. And it's not easy. None of this dreaming stuff is for the, like, that's why I can't disrespect, and I used to do it, and I'm mad at myself for doing it. These little artists coming up, people that, you know, you diss their music or you diss their whatever, but I'm like, they found a way to win. I cannot hate. I have to respect these people because they came from a hard place just like I came from a hard place, and they found a way to make it out. I need to celebrate people who have the courage to do what most people do not. Most of these keyboard haters, most of these people online that are just quick to be negative, these are people who are so sad in their own life, they're not doing anything. So the only thing they can do is hurt the people that are doing something. You know, when I was a bit of a loser. Well, I was a bit of like in a worldly sense loser, because when I was signed, and people don't know this, but I owned nothing. I lived in my parents' house in a room because I toured so much. I owned a car and a suitcase. That was it. And I told the Lord, I remember the day I just got signed. I was praying and I was going after it, and I was in my little room that was half neon green, half blue. With glow in the dark stars on the top. Hey. I gotta throw it on. I remember being in that room and I had a red Tommy Hilfiger suitcase. And I remember telling the Lord, I was like, Jesus, you know when you get all spiritual. I was like, Jesus, if it's just me, you, and that suitcase, I'm in. I'm in. I don't care about money. I don't care about anything. I'm in, right?
It's just in case Louis Vuitton works too.
Yeah.
If we get there.
Yo, 4 years of not making money. 4 years just touring. And I was like, oh my God, he took me real serious. Like he was being real serious with me. So I was like, all right, no, I meant it. I'm not in this for the money. So I lived like a pauper from the first day I got signed to the day I got married. I didn't own a single thing. I didn't go on a single vacation. I told the Lord, it's me, you, and that suitcase. And I meant it. So for 9 years of my career, I did not take on a single bill that I didn't need. I only paid for a cell phone, my health insurance, my car insurance, and that's it. And whatever car I had. I didn't take on a house. I didn't whatever. Mind you, I'm approaching 27, 28, and people are like, hey man, like you're getting close to 30 and you don't have anything to show for it. And I'm like, yeah, but talk to me about my dream and I'll make you believe. Yeah. I'll make you believe that God is real. I'll tell you about my dream and I'll tell you how far I've come and you will believe that my life is rich, even though I have nothing to show for it. And I would get slight insecurities when it came to meeting somebody, a woman, and her looking into my life and being like, this fool don't have a thing to his name. He's just like traveling like a little vagabond. But I always knew, I was like, talk to me for 5 minutes. I will make you a believer. Let your dad talk to me. I wasn't scared of any parent. I was like, let them talk to me. Just 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. Let them ask them anything they want. And I will make them a believer of what God is doing in my life. I know I will. And that's exactly what happened. We got married. I had nothing. I just bought a house, but it's only because my parents needed one. It's the only reason. And they moved into it, and I didn't even move into it, not once. That's when I met this girl, sold everything I had, and then flew over here. So, I mean, if you really want that dream, like, will you give it all? Like, can you let it all go? And if not, and you have found your line, Brandon said it earlier, dreams can be resurrected. I don't want anybody to feel like you have to give up. Sometimes it's the responsible thing to do. Mm-hmm. I get it. If you have family and the dream has changed, and now your dream is for your kids. Now your kids have just soaked up all the dream, and they have become it. And that is a noble dream. I'm not even gonna say you got the worst side of it. But if you do have a dream and you're struggling in a situation where you're trying to figure out if it's real or not, or if you're trying to find the line of where to quit, I just want to encourage you. If it's real, if it's from God, or if it's from just a deeper sense of knowing who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, and you're stuck somewhere where you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, we just want to encourage you, man, take that step. Whatever that step means. If it's a singer, go do an open mic. If it's a freaking somebody who wants to create, go to a coffee shop and write a script. Do something, anything to just spark the bones, the dead bones, just spark it and just see what happens. Fear can cripple you, but I know that if you just give it a little bit of breath, you'll see it come to life. And I really do believe in people, and that are dreamers that are chasing it. And I give you so much credit, so much props, because I know how hard it is. I know the fear and I know the hate that you can get, but I just really wanted to encourage you. And I'm grateful that every person in this table, in somehow, some way, is still chasing their dream. And it's very encouraging, even though it's super, super hard, So kudos.
Thank you.
My queen always impresses me because she is amazing. Every time she goes to an audition, every time she goes whatever, and she comes back just happy, I am beyond baffled at her. So, and I tell her all the time, right, babe?
That's right.
And every time you tell your story, I fall in love with you more. Because you came from nothing.
Yeah.
You came from nothing.
And look at me now.
Look at us now. Hey, guys, we love you so much. Thanks for listening. We've gone over an hour. This is awesome.
There we go.
No good, Johnny.
Hey,
Johnny No Good.
thank you for
Who's
having
going to do a lot of good. Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you for having me.
I loved everything that you said. It was really a pleasure. You guys, I'll put his Instagram and all his stuff underneath, so you go follow him. If you are again watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Please
Smash
click
that like
Yeah,
button.
share. It helps us so much. Numbers do mean something with this thing, and we also just want to help people. We are doing our first live event on this season, so that's going to be amazing. I don't know where this will land. So either we just did it or we're going to do it. I don't really care.
It
but it's
went
going to be
great,
amazing.
or it's going to go really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it
We
went
had a great
amazing.
time, and we will have a great time.
It's going to be dope. So we love you so much. Hey, we pray you find a seat at the table. But if you don't, you are always welcome at ours. Cheers.
Time after time, I've tried to find what it takes to survive. But every day I long to be free and just live my life. I've waited too long for my dream and I'm ready to fly. I'll never give up. The whole world is waiting to see. I'll never give up. I'll fight till there's no fighting me. I'll never give up. Give up, won't give up, won't give up. I'll never, never give up. Won't give up, won't give up. I'll never give up.
I ain't got a lot of time, so I talk fast. Hope in a dream that I can't pass. I feel it in my gut, then I'm running out of luck, and I need a little faith just to get past every doubt that ever try to stop me, block me like I never had a chance. We dream big, but it really all depends if we got a team that'll help us fight like Rocky. I hear no fear try to creep in my window, telling me I'm never gonna win. Better do it all again. What I got ain't good, so pack it up, move it out. You ain't got the goods, so tap out. Misunderstood since day one. Daddy said, son, here's your way out, and you ain't gonna stop me.
But every day I long to be free and just live my life.
Let's go, let's go. And you ain't gonna stop me.
I've waited too long for my dream and I'm ready to fly.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
I'll never give up. The whole world is waiting to see. I'll never give up. I'll fight till there's no fighting me. I'll never give up. Give up, won't give up, won't give up. I'll never, never give up. Won't give up, won't give up. I'll never give up.
You can knock me down, but I'll get back. Up and away with a jetpack. Sup, homie, where the top at? And what I gotta do to get a top hat? Shake, 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 shake it off. Hate, 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 really sets me off. I can be dead broke and be cool as friends, but let me get a little cash and the friendship ends. But I ain't tryna change my swag for the people tryna hold me back. I ain't cool with that. I'ma do what I'm supposed to do. Break through and use my platform to give the good news. And you keep watching, stop hating. Off the hits that I'm making. Work hard to see my team make it. I see my dream, I'm gon' take it.
The whole world is waiting to see. I'll never give up. I'll fight till there's no fighting me. I'll never give up.